Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Jaden Schaefer. Today on the show, we're talking about Amazon's Ring cameras that are rolling out a new, slightly controversial AI-powered facial recognition feature to all of their video doorbells. We're going to get into the options if you want to opt out of this, why people are thinking this is going to be a useful feature, why Amazon's Ring says it's a useful feature, and why some people think this is an invasion of privacy, because it doesn't just recognize your face, it recognizes strangers' faces. So we're going to get into all of that on the show today. Before we do, I wanted to mention, if you want to get access to all of the AI models that we talk about on the show, there's over 40 of the top AI models on my own platform, which is called AIbox.ai. We have a playground that lets you chat with all of the top models from OpenAI to Anthropic to Google to Gemini to Claude, and a whole bunch of really cool image models and audio models from 11 Labs. You could talk with all of them for $19 a month, all on one platform. You can switch between them, test which one has the best responses, compare them side by side. It's an awesome platform for $20 a month, so you don't have to have subscriptions to 40 different platforms. If you want to go check it out, it is AIbox.ai. I'll leave a link in the description. All right, so Amazon's new Ring doorbells is going to be able to identify any visitors that come to your front door through a new AI-powered facial recognition feature. This is kind of controversial. They're calling this new feature Familiar Faces, and it was announced earlier in September, but they're finally rolling it out to anyone in the United States. Amazon says that this is going to let you identify people that, come to your house very regularly. They're going to let you catalog up to 50 faces. They kind of have a max at 50. And these could be your family members, your friends, your neighbors, delivery drivers, household staff, and anyone else. And after you label someone in the Ring app, so you actually have to go in and label someone. Basically, when people come, it'll have some sort of screenshot of their face that'll show up inside of the app, and you can put a label and a name to that person's face. But after you do that, then the Ring camera is going to recognize them as they come up to your door in the future. So instead of having, an alert that pops up on your phone that says, a person is at your door, you're going to get a personalized notification, and you can customize the notifications a little bit more, where it'd be something like mom is at the front door, or your wife is at the front door, or your kid, or whoever, right? So it'll tell you exactly who is at the front door. I think this is good in some sense. I mean, it's kind of annoying to have 100 persons at your front door all day long notifications, especially from people that are just like your family, maybe like, your spouse or your kids that visit the house all day long, because it's your house. You don't want to get notified every single time necessarily. So you could turn on notifications for each of them. So on the one hand, you can imagine this as being a, somewhat useful, albeit slightly useful feature, but it is receiving some pushback. They have the Consumer Protection Organization, EFF, and a U.S. Senator that are pushing back on it. And Amazon Ring owners can use this feature to essentially help them disable all the alerts that they didn't want to see coming in. So, you don't have to get notifications referencing yourself coming in and out of your house, which I think is one that a lot of people would love to turn off. And you can also set these alerts on a per face basis. So just for specific people, you could be alerted or not alerted. So in any case, yes, this sounds sort of useful. I will mention, to Amazon's credit, it's not enabled by default. You're going to have to go and turn it on in the app's settings. But what I will say is that while faces can be named in the app directly, you can do that in the event history section or from the new Familiar Faces library. Once you label the face, it's going to be named in all of the notifications and in the app's timeline and in the event history. So these labels you can then edit at any time. They also have a bunch of tools to merge duplicates or delete faces. So this is a fairly well thought out feature. They have a bunch of, capabilities to go and edit everything. And Amazon says that the face data is encrypted. They say that they will never share it with other people. They also say that, unnamed faces are automatically removed after 30 days. So yes, this is sort of useful, but a lot of people are concerned about some privacy of having this facial recognition, basically looking at every single person that comes to your house. And especially when you think of how many Ring cameras there are around, across America, how many, facial recognition scans are going to be run. So one of the big areas that some people have raised concerns is just the company's history of having partnerships with law enforcement, and I think they even once gave police and fire departments the ability to request data from the Ring Neighborhoods app. Now, it's so tricky because, like, on the one hand, yes, this is kind of this is very useful for the police, right? You could imagine if there is some sort of burglary in one house, you'd want to be able to request all the Ring data from all the houses around you, but on the other hand, it's tricky because, if this is typically something you need like a warrant for, and there's all sorts of gray areas. There was this thing called the Ring Neighbors app, and the police were able to essentially request from Amazon directly from, getting footage directly from people's doorbells. And the thing that I think people don't like about this, or what some people push back on, is, it feels sort of like, well, this is my doorbell, this is my camera I set up, and having, a police, for example, instead of knocking on my door and asking me if they could see my footage, to go straight to Amazon and like get footage off of something that feels like mine, which is primarily recording myself. I think some people just don't like that. More recently, Amazon partnered with Flock, which is the maker of an AI-powered surveillance camera used by police. And Ring's own security efforts, I think, haven't always been perfect in the past. I know, for example, Amazon and Alexa have had some kerfuffles in the past where they've accidentally, like, you can request your data from an Amazon Alexa, for example, what it records on you. And I remember hearing the story of, it is obviously an anecdote, but someone said that they requested their data from Amazon's Alexa. They were given a bunch of audio files that the Amazon Alexa had recorded of them, and it turned out to be like their neighbor or like some other person that wasn't them. And so, they just like gave some other random person's audio files, which had, include them singing in the shower, among other things. And so I think that was a major red flag, and definitely feels like if the wires can get crossed there, having a camera at your front door could be not super great. So Ring had to pay a $5.8 million fine back in 2023 after the U.S. Federal Trade Commission found that Ring employees and contractors had broad and like basically unrestricted access to customers' video for years on their Neighbors app. There was, also users' home addresses and precise locations that were being exposed, which was a big issue. Also, Ring passwords have been floating around the dark web for quite a long time, which is obviously another issue. And so I think, given Amazon's history on a lot of this stuff, adding in this facial recognition that can now identify people, and there's a possibility of that data being leaked, I think a lot of people are concerned. So with all of that, I will mention that you are able to you are by default opted out of this. So you don't have to enable it if you do have a Ring camera. So I think right off the bat, that's probably the biggest thing. But because of all the privacy concerns that are coming, there is a call from a U.S. Senator, Ed Markey from Massachusetts, to abandon the feature. I don't think that they are going to, because I can see, when there's like a genuine use case that's not illegal, I think they'll roll it out and let people use it on a basis of who wants it. Then there's, of course, the EFF that is also giving them some backlash, to Consumer Protection Organization. There are some privacy laws that are preventing Amazon from launching it in Illinois, Texas, Portland, and Oregon, which is interesting, right? You have red states and blue states. It seems pretty nonpartisan of an issue. People don't typically want a camera with facial recognition tracking everyone that comes in and out of the homes all around them. I will say, like, in my opinion, people should be allowed to use this if they want it, and people that don't want to should be allowed to not use it. So yeah, I don't typically love it when like whole states disallow things. But hey, if you are like a super privacy person, then you can move to one of those 4 states. I think there's a bunch of questions that were asked, and in response to all of those, Amazon said that users' biometric data is going to be processed in the cloud, and they claim that it is not going to be used to train AI models. It also claims it won't be able to identify all of the locations where a person had been detected. So basically, like, it's not going to add a geolocation to the facial recognition data, which is kind of interesting, because they also have a feature called Search Party, which like looks across the whole neighborhood network of Ring cameras to find lost dogs and cats. And technically, you could have that same feature just on facial recognition, but I guess they're going to try to turn that off so it's not, tagging geolocation of faces. It'll be interesting to see how this rolls out in the future. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast today. If you learned anything new or if you appreciated the show, please leave a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps out the show to be found by more amazing people like yourself. I think it's the number one way that Apple ranks shows is by how many reviews and new reviews are coming in. So if you wouldn't mind leaving a rating and review, it would really help the show out a ton. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. And as always, make sure to try out AIbox.ai.